Hello my lovely bookish friends. Can you believe we made it to November already? Where has the time gone? I feel like it was September and I blinked and suddenly here we are in November with only 2 months left of the year. It just feels crazy, and I have an awful lot of books that I still need to read if I want to tick off that TBR list that I did at the start of the year. I think I should have to crack on with that a little bit this next month. So I read some really good books this month. There were some that I had wanted to read in October that I did get round to reading. There are also some that I've wanted to read for a very long time that I managed to get read, and also one off that TBR list I was just talking about. Still just getting off there and ticking them off slowly. So let us get to the books.
So the first book is one that I got out from the library, and it is Sisters of Song and Sword by Rebecca Ross. Now this follows two sisters, Halcyon and Evadne. I hope I pronounced their names right. Now the story begins with Evadne waiting for her sister to return after spending 8 years in the Queen's army. However, instead, Halcyon is arrested and charged with this terrible crime and sentenced to 15 years punishment. Evadne is suspicious of the charges, so volunteers to take part in the sentence and is determined to clear her sister's name. However, as both sisters start the punishment, they learn that there are sentences worse than death. And that's a very basic synopsis actually, because that kind of stuff all happens at the beginning of the novel and then there's a lot more to it. This is a YA standalone, and this is the first book I've read that's set in a fantasy world that's sort of inspired by, I think it's meant to be ancient Greeks and their kind of myths and way of life, and that was really fascinating to read. Overall, this book was really good actually. It was very enjoyable. It wasn't my favourite book I read this month or anything like that, but it was very enjoyable and quite a quick read. In some ways it almost felt too quick because it is a standalone. There were parts where it not quite rushed, but there was like bits where I could have just done with a little bit more information about this. I could have just had a little bit more backstory about this or whatever, just to make it feel a bit more complete. But otherwise, I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a really fun and nicely paced story. I liked how the different storylines all connected together and how it was told was really well done, and I'm excited to read more of Rebecca Ross actually. I know she also wrote the Queen's Rising duology. I hope I just said that right, but I know that's quite popular and I've known some people who have read that and really liked it, so I'm quite intrigued to read more of this author, and this book has definitely made me want to check out her other stuff. The next book I read was the next volume in the Tea Dragon Society series. Now, I talked about this series last month because I read the first volume in September and was very much determined to read the next 2 volumes this month. Actually, there are only 3 volumes overall. Now, this series follows Goethe, who finds this dragon in the local market and ends up becoming involved with the Tea Dragon Society, which is a society that looks after these dragons that can make tea, and it's just a very cute and very wholesome story. This second volume follows a sort of separate story to the main story, but then this all links back in together for the 3rd volume, and it is just, honestly, it's so wholesome and so sweet, and they're all really quick reads. They're only got like 100 pages, 130 I think actually overall, or something like that for each volume, so they're very quick to read. The drawings are just gorgeous and lovely, and I just want to be part of the Tea Dragon Society, okay? I really, really just want a tea dragon. I feel like if they existed, I wanted to be part of their society, because it's such a great story, and honestly, it's so beautifully drawn that I highly recommend everyone check this out if they just want something wholesome and just, dragons and tea, guys. It's just dragons and tea. What could be better? The next book was Keeper of Enchanted Rooms by Charlie N. Holberg. Now, this book actually didn't officially come out until November the 1st. However, it was on Amazon's first choice reads or something. I can't remember exactly what it is. It's like this thing that they have where if you subscribe to it, you can get certain books that are published through their company, I think, for slightly cheaper and reduced price a month earlier than their release, and so I got this book first on Kindle, then really liked it, and then I bought the paperback edition. Now it follows the story of Merritt Fernsby, I think that's how you pronounce his name, who inherits this remote estate on this kind of little island out of the way, and it hasn't been inhabited for more than a century. So he goes to check it out and is ready to call it home until he realises that he doesn't have a choice. The door slams shut behind him, locking him in, and the Wilbur house will not let Merritt leave, ever. Then comes along Huda Larking, I hope that is how you pronounce that character's name, who works for the Boston Institute of Keeping Enchanted Rooms and has been trained to tame sort of enchanted houses. So she comes along to try and help sort out the house and deal with the enchantments and work out what's going on with it. However, as she stays there and helps to set things up, her and Merritt grow closer and a romance ensues, and then there is more going on within the house than they realise. And that's kind of quite a basic synopsis again. I wasn't quite sure how to explain this one without giving away lots of the plot. This is another wonderful and whimsical read. This author, Charlie N. Hellberg, is an expert at writing these quick, easy, whimsical, magical reads that I just love, and they're perfect for when you just want to dive into something that isn't too heavy, isn't too much. It's just a perfect, magical and easy read. It's something that you can definitely read in one sitting, and it is great for when you just want to have a night in to snuggle up with a good magical book and escape to another world. And also just the enchanted house is just, I love that concept with houses coming to life and stuff. So this was just a perfect book and was just what I was looking for. Next up was Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. Now this tells the story of Maya. I hope that's how you pronounce Maya. I'm not quite sure if that's how you pronounce her name, but that's what we're just going to go with. Anyway, she wants to become a great tailor and become the greatest tailor in all the land, but because she is a girl, she can't do that. However, when a royal messenger summons her ill father to court, she seizes the chance to disguise as a man and go to the palace to compete to become the imperial tailor in her father's place. However, when she gets there, she realises that there's a lot more to this challenge than she first thought, especially when the Emperor's bride-to-be challenges the tailors to create 3 magical gowns, one made from the laughter of the sun, one from the tears of the moon, and one from the blood of the stars. Now this was a book that was on my TBR for this year, and I'm really glad to be able to tick it off. It was a very magical and enjoyable book. I really enjoyed it as I was reading it. It's not perhaps not my favourite book of all time, if that makes sense, but it was very much enjoyable, and I really liked the storyline and I liked where it went. I thought that the love story moved a little quick, but I think that's because there was stuff that happened off page, off scene that we didn't see. However, I really did enjoy it, and I have ordered the next one, the second last part of the duology from the library, so I'm very much intrigued to see how this will end, and I'll probably give a bit more of a detailed what I thought of the book once I've read the next one. Next up, we have The Drowned Woods by Emily Lloyd-Jones. Now this tells the story of Mer, who is a water diviner, so she has the ability to manipulate water with magic, which she can either use to sell people with or kill them. And for years, Mer has been running away from this prince who bound her to his service and forced her to kill thousands of people with her magic. She just wants to be safe and away from him, but however, when problems arise and her old handler, the king's spymaster, returns with a proposition to use her powers to bring down the very prince that abused them both. With the help of a fey-cursed man, a snarky thief, and a corgi that may or may not be a spy, Mer must decide if she is prepared to run for the rest of her life or to stand and fight for her freedom, and possibly peace. This book is not a sequel or a prequel, but it's sort of set in the same world as the Bone Houses, which I read last year, and at the end the epilogue sort of makes sense of how it all fits together, but I won't spoil that for you. And this book is slightly like a heist novel, and it's just a lot of fun. I think I enjoyed the Bone Houses more because I liked the characters more in that one, but I did really enjoy this story. It was fast paced, it was just a lot of fun, and I really loved the way that this author tells her stories. They feel like a dark fairy tale, they're so engaging, and I love this so much, and I will definitely be checking out this author's other works in the future. Next up we have The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Now this tells the story of Bod, whose parents and family are murdered by this mysterious man called Jack, but he escapes and wanders off to the local graveyard, where the ghosts of the graveyard take him in and raise him. Now this was definitely my favourite book I read in October. It's so wholesome, and I got really emotional at the ending. I just really enjoyed it, and I don't know why I haven't read this before, because I think it's technically like a middle grade book, but until recently I'd never really heard about it. And so honestly, it's just one that I know Neil Gaiman is a great writer. I've heard so much great stuff about his work, but this is the first book of his that I've actually read, and honestly, I just loved it. I just loved it so much. I'm definitely gonna have to check out his other stuff. And this one was just so wholesome and a little bit of sweet at the end, and honestly, I just go check it out, guys. I have a whole reading vlog on this book because I really loved it so much, and I don't know what more I can say. I'm trying to think of something I can say that is a bit more insightful into the book, but I just really liked it. It's got spooky vibes, so it was great for October, but it's not scary or anything like that. It's just good fun. It's kind of like a warm hug. Just check it out. If you haven't read The Graveyard Book, go read it. Finally, we have Far Wilder Magic by Alison Staff. Now, this tells the story of Maggie, who lives alone in this creaking old manor, when she spots this legendary Hala, which is this fox creature. And every time this creature turns up, this hunt soon follows. So hunters from across the country come together to chase after this mythical beast, and there is a big prize for anyone who can kill it. However, to kill it, you have to have both a sharpshooter and an alchemist. Enter Wes Winters, who is this apprentice who's been fired from all his apprenticeships and has come to Maggie's home in search of her mother, who is also an alchemist, hoping that he'll take him on. The pair make up this unlikely team, but are both drawn together as they uncover dark magic that could be the key to winning the hunt if they survive long enough. This is a book that I bought a while ago and I was saving to read in October because it has a lot of autumnal vibes, and I wasn't disappointed. It had some great autumnal vibes. However, I will say that this book is actually more of a love story rather than... How do I put this? So rather than it being a book about magic with a love story element, it felt more like it was a love story with magical elements, if that makes sense to everyone. Not that it was necessarily a bad thing, but I kind of wish that there was a little bit more about the magic of the hunt and stuff. I mean, there was, but that felt quite quick at the end opposed to what I thought it was going to be, where I kind of thought that was going to be more throughout, whereas it was them leading up to it and doing the getting to know each other and building up their weapons and all that sort of stuff beforehand, and then that happened all very quickly and stuff. So yeah, it was good, but I don't know, I think I was expecting something a little bit different from it. Overall, it was a great book to read in October, in autumn, because it was beautifully descriptive and I did enjoy it.
So that was all the books I read in October. Honestly, I really liked all the books I read last month. I think that's for the last 2 months. I've been pretty good with the books that I've read. I was really happy with Spin the Dawn. I was glad that I got that one read as well, because that's been on my shelf for a while. I also absolutely adored The Graveyard Book. I can't go on about that book enough. It was so good. I wish I had read it earlier. I don't know why it taken me so long to get around to that book. It was amazing. And The Drowned Woods was great. Far Wilder Magic was great. There were some really good books on there. I am also still currently reading The Discovery of Witches. Now, I started this book at the end of September, but I got this random, well, it wasn't really random, I ordered a load of books to the library and there was a delay, so rather than the books coming staggered as they were supposed to, they all ended up coming at once, which meant that I kind of had to put this book on hold for a little while and get some of those books read. However, I am over halfway through and I'm actually going through this book quite quickly. Also, whilst this book is about vampires and witches and magic, it will also quite well fit the theme of this November, which I have decided to make a dark academia month. I've not really read pretty much any dark academia books to my knowledge, and so I really want to read some because I know that they're really popular and I actually really like the dark academia aesthetic and the kind of style of it, so I really want to read some of the books. So for my TBR for this month, it's to get this one finished and also to read this wonderful little collection that I have of dark academia books. We have the legendary The Secret History, which is perhaps one of the key novels for this genre. I also have just started reading If We Were Villains. I've also got Ace of Spades, and then on my Kindle I have, I think it's called The Maidens, and then Atlantis 6, and also, what's the other one called? The Ninth House? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. I also have as well the Deadly Education. So I have those books as well. I don't know if I'm going to get to all of them because I have some other library books and stuff like that, but I would like to read some of the big, some of the big main ones, such as If We Were Villains and Secret History. I also have, do you call it Babel or Babel, on hold from the library, but I don't know if it's going to come in time for this month. However, I'm very excited to dive into this world of dark academia and see what it's all about. I know lots of people love it, so I'm really excited. I'm also a little bit nervous because I think it's one of those ones where the stories are great and the sort of aesthetic is great for the books and the descriptions and stuff, but the characters are often not that likeable, and I'm not sure how well I'm going to cope with that, so we'll see how it goes. But I am really excited to delve into it. So yes, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please consider subscribing and liking this video. We have a lot more bookish content to come, so please stick around for that. And until next time, my lovely bookish friends, bye!